Here we have a play from last night's game between the New York Knicks and Los Angeles Lakers, which really goes to show the importance of a detailed focus when it comes to executing schemes, both from an offensive and defensive standpoint. So we'll start right here with Jarrett Jack, who's bringing the ball across half court towards the left wing. And as Jack moves into that wing area, we can see Courtney Lee starts to come across for a cross screen set for Kristaps Porzingis right here. Now the idea is that Porzingis is going to come over the screen, catch the ball in deep post position in what's known as a punch action. Basically, a post up is just equivalent to punch. And so as that action is happening, it's Larry Nance and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's job to prevent that catch from being an easy one. So we see the screens being set right here, and Lee has to get a piece of Nance. Now, Nance does a really good job getting into Porzingis' body as soon as he senses that screen coming. And we can see here he's really driving him out this way. Now, there's really two options when it comes to fighting over cross screens. You can either push the guy over, as Nance clearly is doing here, or you can push him underneath the basket. Now, the danger with pushing him underneath the basket is that he could set up really deep post position right here. But, of course, if you drive him so far underneath that he's catching it almost on the baseline, you've got him trapped against that area. It can also be easier to front from this position because if you're fronting him as he's fighting over here, there's nowhere to throw the ball over top. You're just going to throw it out of bounds. Now, in this case, Nance chooses to push him over, the idea being you're pushing him farther away from the basket and making that catch really tough. And as we can see here, there's actually no contact on the screen. Nance does a good job getting low and getting skinny in his contact. Notice how even though he's taller than what he appears to be when he goes through it, he's really ducking down and getting his body attached to Porzingis. What this does is it makes it harder for Lee to hit him because Lee doesn't want to hit his own player. So instead of just making contact with both guys, Lee hits nobody. So right here in this position, we can see Nance is in a full front. Now the idea here is that he wants Jack to throw this pass over top, but of course where Porzingis is, that makes that pass impossible. But as Porzingis keeps fighting this way, Nance can't keep fronting because unless he communicates that to a teammate like Brook Lopez right here, they're just giving an easy over top pass to Porzingis. And given his size, that can really be a dunk opportunity. So we'll see here, Porzingis now fights over to get back in front, and Nance doesn't really fight him. The idea is that Nance fronts him initially to make Porzingis have to work to get in front, therefore pushing him out further towards the sideline. And Nance keeps fighting. Now look where Porzingis ends up by the time he is looking to call for the ball. Jarrett Jack realizes, okay, this isn't a viable pass, so I'm going to swing it this way. Now, the idea with this pass here is that Porzingis would flip his body, spin behind Nance, and then Kanter would throw this over top pass, but Porzingis doesn't do that here. Now, let's get back to the other part of this action. So as this cross screen is being set, we have what's a cross screen and a down screen coming from Kanter or a middle pin down. This action you'll see a lot in a motion week that the Spurs or the Warriors run or a lot of different teams will run. And basically, the idea is you're putting tension on this player right here, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So if the screen were set a little better, Pope would have to jump out here to help Nance as he fights to get back in the play. But then Lee would release from this screen and come off this pin down basically unguarded. So that's why it's really important that Nance fights over this screen and does not get disconnected from Porzingis. Otherwise, Lee would have an easy path up here for a three-point shot. So Caldwell-Pope is able to get through that without getting disconnected because Nance has it handled. And Brook Lopez does a nice job sagging off a non-shooter to help as well. Now Lee, because Caldwell-Pope overplays this, looks to cut back door. But again, look at the mess of bodies here. So even though he's cutting back door and potentially open, Pope is okay with this because there's nowhere to pass the ball. Caldwell-Pope now gets in what's known as a top lock, where basically he puts his butt on the screener and faces the opposite way. The idea being he's not going to let Lee get over this screen. Lee essentially gives up, as we can see. And so both actions now, shot, punch, have been taken away completely. The Lakers do a really nice job here blowing it up. So now it's just plain basketball. Cantor catches it. Jack comes for the DHO. Okay, and now we have our isolation on the wing. But again, look where Porzingis is catching the ball. What was supposed to be a catch on the deep block has now been pushed out all the way to the three-point line. And even though Porzingis can really make a play from out there, it's still a tougher place to do for someone of his size. The last thing I want to point out here is Larry Nance. Notice the ball pressure he gives right on the catch. He knows he's going to have a tough time contesting any Porzingis shot given the height disadvantage. So what does he do? He knows that Porzingis is going to put the ball on the ground, so he keeps his hands low looking for that rip-through. And right as that rip-through comes, he slaps the ball away. Now, one thing that should be said about this, a lot of coaches will get mad at gambles of this kind. With Nance, who clearly has been assigned to guard Porzingis, you don't want him getting in foul trouble. So a little slap of the ball, like we see here, can really get you in trouble at times picking up cheap fouls. Now, it does work out, and sometimes you do have to trust your players to make a good play, which Nance does. But this goes to show sort of how an action can be blown up just by simple execution. And Larry Nance and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope really do a nice job here.